Alright, welcome everybody to another week of DeFi Kingdoms. Make sure I'm unmuted. Okay, great. This was yesterday, March 14th, 2022's AMA for DFK. It was a game mechanics AMA. So we'll just get into it. Rather than reading through it verbatim tonight, figured we'll just kind of take the overall key points from it. So Fizzy Fox said a couple things at the top that was really bullish. So here are the team members present. So first, we know that Crystalvale is going to launch on March 30th, right? So 2 weeks, 15 days from now. Tomorrow, he has an announcement. There's going to be a lot more information. So the end of the Perilous Journey happens tomorrow on Wednesday. And Fizzy Fox is also going to be putting out an announcement tomorrow that sounds like it's going to have some exciting news. There's some speculation it's going to be about some eggs. So we're going to see about that. If anyone was looking today, there was a bit of a spike in gold, I think, just because there's some speculation on maybe it's on some golden eggs or something like that. But that's kind of the status right now. What else did he go on to say? He basically said that the Crystalvale was already on testnet, so that was really exciting. So I mean, they were like really prepared for so the launch of like the full production is going to be on the 30th. He said that Crystal will be airdropped. So I'll read it right here. It says, we're getting close to the time where we are planning to launch our mainnet. It's already running on testnet. Aside from that, we announced Crystalvale will launch on 3/30, a week after the Avalanche Summit. So that's also nice. They're going to be doing, they're traveling to the Avalanche Summit and going to be doing a big presentation a week from now. So that'll be building the hype for sure. I said, we have the Perilous Journey coming to an end this Wednesday, the 16th. I'm excited to see if my heroes survive or not. And then went on to say that a lot of the crystal airdrops that we've announced will be dropped on the 30th after we launch Crystalvale because they will be airdropped in that realm. So that was the first major point of the AMA. So everyone's wondering where the airdrop would happen. So it's been confirmed the airdrop will happen in Crystalvale and it will be announced on the 30th after the launch. So that will be a crazy day for sure.
Yeah, like what all do we need to do to get ready for that? Because I've been kind of putting that off, trying to figure that out. Like, what do we need to have ready for that?
Yeah, so I guess all the questions on the bridging. So I don't know, all the bridging is supposed to be in game. I mean, part of what they're doing is to make that easier and more, just easier to bridge. To go cross chain. So I think everyone's still. Has it been confirmed that staking in Crystalvale with Jewel is the way to earn Crystal and not single staking in Serendale? So that would be one thing. And then the other thing is just, I think we're all waiting for the instructions of how to, bridge our assets, or at least, Jewel as an asset. Maybe we can't bridge our heroes yet. But it'll probably just be like the decks, and then they'll airdrop the Crystal, and then figuring out whenever they're going to launch the gardens, and just kind of getting that schedule like really finite. So there's still a lot in the air in terms of like the hard deadlines and details. So I think either tomorrow, part of the announcement that Fizzy Fox will have could be that, or it could be something else. And then also, they definitely have said that they're, at the Avalanche Summit a week from now, they're preparing to drop a lot more alpha for the Avalanche side of things. So we might find out some more of the Crystalvale stuff in particular in a week from now. But that's a long-winded way of saying I'm not really sure.
Right. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one that was not sure about exactly what we need to do in, less than 15 days. Right. A little nervous, but yeah, excited.
A dreamer talking to, I guess, their socials really aren't that strong, to be honest with you. I mean, 13,000, the Discord has almost 90,000 members. It's like 88,000. So to only have 13,000 views against almost 16,000 impressions. So people that are seeing it are watching it, but not that many people are seeing it. So that's that. There wasn't too much about, major takeaways. So the next important thing that I was really seeing was about LAN tournaments. So we will have unique banners for each type of tournament. Atlas Parker, one of the developers, has put these banners together, and we want to share a few of them. You know, the art is really unique. You know, I think it's... I just keep looking at it, and I'm just like, huh. It's like totally different than the hero art. So it's kind of interesting that there's like the hero art, there's potentially concept art, and then there's going to be like the in-game kind of character art. They're kind of funny looking. I guess it's going to like the dwarves and elves kind of thing. You know, like the top diagram here looks kind of more like heroes, and then you got like, you know, these little guys, little elves. So it looks like they ran through the old school Instagram filters. Yeah, it's just like a really interesting, like the color scheme. What do you call it? Just like the color spectrum or something. It's just, I mean, I kind of appreciate it from, not to be like esoteric, but if art kind of compels me, if it like confuses me, makes me think about it, I kind of respect that and appreciate that, as opposed to just being like, oh, that's the obvious choice, or oh, it just looks good. I think there's something about being original, about being unique. So I'm not dissing it. I like it. It's just different. Kind of caught me. I was thinking kind of pixelated hero stuff, and now we're going towards like little elves and dwarves that are playing dice games. Yeah, so they get to the LAN tournaments. Let's find that. But the quote says for LAN tournaments, it said they made a lot of progress and they have several iterations of the LAN tournaments. So that, it's really interesting to think about, right? Because we're thinking about, when we do these primary and secondary roles for heroes, it's always kind of thinking about, 3v3, there's the kind of like the prime 3 stats you want to boost and all these things. And now it is looking like there's going to be tournaments that sounds a little bit kind of like it's going to be kind of like a gameplay thing to kind of keep going on. It's not going to be like a one-time event. So, and that you can pick tournaments based on, a singular stat. So, it almost makes it seem like, if you have a hero that just happens to have kind of even arbitrarily just like a stat that's just higher than everything else, it's like you just double down and go for that. And from a PvP standpoint, if you just focus on those like style tournaments, like for that particular hero, that might be a way to do it. So I don't know how focused that is, or if there is going to be something to be said about kind of the balance of stats that a hero has to make it more efficient, or if it's just like strength versus strength, dexterity versus dexterity, and luck versus luck, which would be different. So I don't know. There's kind of, I can't tell if there's going to be different styles of gameplay, or if there's just, if one's like a prototype of the other, or if there's just going to be, what's all going to happen with that. So here's another quote. So they were talking about, so in one of the questions, talking about the amounts of loot, and that, people just selling it off, everyone waiting for some utility, and, or, if there's still going to be a value to hoarding it and like having the most of anything or saving the most. So their answer, Penguin said that what they envision so far is that every period of time there may be some randomly selected leaderboard, and over that period of time everyone will be incentivized to go and do whatever the leaderboard prompt is, and at the end of the time we will reward varying things. But we are thinking that at first some of the prizes could be Gen 0 heroes over Crystalvale, and then going from that there could be jewel rewards or item rewards. But the leaderboard was going to be this idea of kind of creating public competition, which they kind of talked about before, having these public leaderboards in the castle. And so some of the ideas they were talking about were, if there was who could collect the most, X material during this period of time. And so that would be these kind of incentives to, hoard, to not sell, and to kind of drive these, the prices of some of these materials up. That's how I feel about it personally. I've been trying to sell my forages just because I feel like there isn't too much that they have to offer, but really waiting for like the buildings and, just anything to kind of drive some utility to some of these materials. So definitely looking forward to that.
Even after the nerf, mining is like literally the only profession.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely looking for some extra stuff from the questing, if it's not going to be like new questing, which they've also were talking about, but like, buffing some of the current questing, or not even buffing it, but, like creating these little things where you can drive some stuff and make it a little bit more exciting. Oh, here was the golden question, right? Locked Crystal. How will we be handling this compared to the Locked Jewel contract? I'm not really sure what Frisky's answer. It wasn't like a clean no. I had to read it a couple times last night. So he said, we had a governance vote about a month ago adding a new jewel locking mechanism to help with this. It's like, okay. I think we all voted against it. So that was that. He says, all of those things we have planned for that are also things we are planning to put into Crystalvale from the start. There are also some bugs being fixed. There will be improvements of the Guardian's contract. Nothing huge, but yes, we are planning to have some of these things built in out of the gate. So you know what I mean? It's like, that wasn't like a hard no or like a hard yes. It's just like, so where are we with that? I don't know. Little vague, little vague.
I don't like that the answers are getting increasingly vague. Just going back like a couple months ago, like each AMA that like we're getting more and more vague answers.
You know, Frisky, you know, he started the AMA by saying, you know, the mechanics AMAs are some of my favorite because I'm excited to hear how more of the game is going to work, so on and so forth. But, you know, it was just kind of like touching on some updates with no real finalized anything. I mean, it all sounded good. You know, got a little art update on just kind of the pictures, whatever. I mean, I guess that's just concept art, you know. I don't think the competitions are going to be like doing the high wire act and seeing who can.
I do love the expression.
Me too. No, I can't stop looking at this.
And the
It's so
dexterity one.
Yeah, I just keep staring at it. I mean, all the live AMA questions were good. I mean, they were right on point with what I think everyone's thinking about. Sort of Pump Skull, he goes, this is exactly the type of information we'd like to hear more about, but also the when. Like I need to know, do I have 2 weeks to acquire more strength on my hero, or do I have less than 2 weeks? My decision could change quite a bit depending on how much time I have. Like, should I be spamming stamina potions now? Would it be worth it? Just looking for kind of that extra information. You know, Hubert goes, thanks, I'll talk to the team. So, you know. I think, were you there? Because I was looking at the live AMA channel. Were you there paying attention live? Like, was there, you know, sometimes you can catch kind of like a nuance of like the tone of everybody. So I wasn't able to catch the actual AMA.
It did seem like people were picking up how vague everything was.
Yeah, so I think I had read that there was some bearish sentiment, but when I was reading through it, it felt like it was like a kind of straightforward. I didn't have any concerns reading about the AMA, but again, I think it probably just came to the fact that everyone's kind of looking for these hard details. And like you said, you know, they're getting more and more vague about it, and I can't tell if that's part of the marketing shtick of like, they've got the summit coming up in a week, and so they want to, you know, save a lot of the alpha announcements and keep the excitement for that. So I wouldn't blame them for doing things like that, but at the same time, it's just kind of like becoming definitely a more consistent thing. So that's more of the concern than kind of a one-off. They just happen to be vague today.
I think it would actually benefit them to be more transparent as well, because you know there's a lot of like there's a lot of copycat projects kind of popping up. So to be able to like maybe not have, you know, formulas and have the contracts up and stuff like that, but to like maybe put out some more details about exactly what they plan on doing, or like just kind of like I forget who said it. You just kind of went over it, asking about like, you know, is it worth spamming stam potions and stuff like that. I think it would benefit them a lot to just kind of like give a little bit more. So when some of these other projects come out with things, it's like who actually came out with it first? Because I mean, it almost feels like there's a race going on.
Yeah, and you know, I think they do realize that they need to be a little more transparent. I know, Access, you shared that image of the roadmap that had been stretched out forever, right? Because right before where you're at there, Beeks, no, they talk about that they're releasing a new roadmap, so with more detailed timelines as well. So hopefully, and Than Polis said that in the next question after Night Cookie, that, you know, like we're all saying, you know, they need to do that and it's needed for trust. So hopefully they're working on getting a little bit more specific with those things as they come a little bit closer.
Yeah, I hope that this like roadmap revamp is more of like making it more detailed and like kind of filling in the gaps rather than like readjusting where certain items are on the roadmap. Because that when they first said that they're revamping it, that was my first concern. I was like, okay, well, what's getting shifted around? What's getting moved back further? What's getting pulled up? So I'm hoping it's more of just like expanding on what's there already rather than like, you know, shifting the pieces around.
Yeah, it's a valid point. I hadn't even. I thought of it from like they're expanding the detail. Right, if it's just shifting things around, it's not the best.
So for the Garden haters out there, I definitely want to highlight this. I was very bullish and excited to see this. So the question was asking about the game mechanics. It says, I see a lot of the game mechanics aren't being applied to the main game. A lot of new players don't even know about the beta, and they are waiting on content they don't even know is released yet. Any updates on general, or in general? Frisky responds, everything is finalized except for gardening, where we want people to be able to queue up multiple gardeners at once. Another thing we need to do is, in order to move that over, they need to re-architect a few things, so they're kind of building the smart contract up from the ground up, which is what's been taking so long. But very excited for that, and hopefully, I guess they're having to rework the quest fund, but I think queuing up multiple gardeners at once will be great.
So that makes me have a question, which is, if you could run 6 gardeners at once, like you can with mining, unless they change the reward structure and like how it scales, because I've seen some people with like massive LPs post there like, oh, I got an egg, and it shows like, you know, they got like 15 jewel. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, how fucking big is your LP, man? So like for some people, and for some people I mean the whales, gardening is excellent, but I'm not sure where the breakpoints for when it actually becomes worth doing are currently. But if you could queue up 6 gardeners right now, is it worth doing unless that gets restructured? I mean, you know, he says they're rewriting the contract, but that doesn't mean they're you know, revamping the formula for you know, jewel rewards from gardening. So do you think it's actually worth it if you could send 6 gardeners at once? Would that change anything to you?
Well, personally, for me, it wouldn't change in the same way that I can't use 6 miners just because my X jewel amount is so little. So, you know, I think they're gonna build what you're saying, that kind of tiered system. But yeah, but I agree with what you're saying. You know, I almost think it should be the inverse way to some effect, where if you do the inverse, that then incentivizes
I agree with that, by the way.
You know,
I really hate that argument. Like, why should we have security cameras? Because people are just gonna steal shit anyway. It's like some weird like, why bother? Because people are gonna exploit it. Well, yeah, but like it'll still mitigate that problem. Like, if you make it to where someone has to you know, multi-wallet to get rewarded the same way they would right now as just one massive wallet, which is the way that most things are structured right now, is to reward the massive wallets. Sure, some people are going to do it. Some people are going to set up bots and they're going to have, you know, 100 or 200 wallets to try to maximize their rewards from contests and airdrops and all that kind of shit. But it's going to stop some of it. It's going to mitigate the issue a little bit. I mean, are they going to be taking some rewards away from the smaller guys that deserve it, that aren't multi-walleting? Sure. But I don't know, just that argument just feels so stale to me.
I agree with that. That's a fair point. Doso, you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's quite the conundrum, right? Because like you said, you know, this current issue, you change it, then you run into another issue. Like, what do you do? And I don't know that there's just a good way of addressing that, honestly. But either way, it seems like the little guy loses, right? That's unfortunate. But I think the reason why they're sticking with that argument in particular is because their objective has been, and you see this with like discouraging and even somewhat banning bots, that they want people to play the game, not scripts, right? So I think that's kind of why they're sticking to that as well, because like you said, you can just set up a bot on a smaller wallet. But, you know, is it really worth the headache for those larger wallets to do that even? And I think they've mentioned this before, that your profession level will help determine like what variants of difficulty like quests you can go on. and that those higher level profession quests would have better rewards. So if you've got a bunch of gardeners that you're sending out mining, you know, it may not in the long run be worth it, because you could be sending them on like some very difficult gardening quests in the mountains or something silly, you know.
Yeah, this is the question
Yeah.
you're referring to. Will there be higher level mining quests to unlock more of the locked jewel? Hubert says higher level profession quests are intended to be better than lower ones. That does mean by extension then yes, it would have a higher unlock rate. So everything kind of pointing to the acceleration of the unlocking of the jewel as we get further to the unlocking schedule of the locked jewel in general.
Honestly, part of me wants to just like go snipe all the fucking good gardeners on the market right now, because there are some solid. If you look at especially advanced hero gardeners compared to every other profession, even fishing, gardening is like 10-20 jewel cheaper, like on average for an advanced hero. Like I'm looking at getting a ninja fisher, right? And they're all about like 140, 150. And then you look at gardeners, ninja gardeners. Not that they're particularly great gardeners, but the drop off is insane. It's like 110, 115 for gardeners, and it's like that on. I'm sure I know it's like that for advanced classes, so I'm sure it's like that for base classes as well, where gardeners are just like just so undervalued. And I don't even mean undervalued in like they're priced appropriately. That's the sad thing. Is like they're super cheap, but like that's kind of appropriate at the moment. But I kind of want to low key snipe some, because if they do change things, then like what happens if gardening becomes as profitable as even gold mining, and you can send 6 at once, like that would be kind of a game changer.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing that they've consistently said is that, you know, the profession quests are really not the main focus of the game anyway. So anytime I see those advanced heroes or those advanced class heroes getting sold for like dirt cheap just because they're a gardener, I'm compelled to not propelled, I'm compelled to buy one, right? And I have on several occasions. I bought a ninja gardener uncommon with advanced traits and 4 summons for like 80 jewel the other day. You know, just
Yeah, people are still
dumb.
sleeping on advanced ability genes.
I'm one of those guys that's too lazy to look at for the advanced traits when I'm in the tavern most times.
After El Professor's, after one of his presentations, I can't help myself. I have to look.
I was just gonna say, Beeks. You know, like right now, like you said, it's an extra step that you have to take. But as they've talked about before, you know, kind of like with Axie Affinity, I think like they have like overlays for the game that show like traits and stats and genealogy and all that. Like as they add that to the UI in the game, and you can actually see those things as you're choosing them, like those advanced traits will be much more transparent, and more people will start to consider them. Because they won't have to do the extra work, right?
Yeah. Also, when we know what they actually do.
Well, yeah, right.
Like, who knows? Like, you know, how many advanced abilities are there? Is there 8? I've seen up to, I know there's at least 6, but I mean,
Yeah,
who's to say that like it maybe for a wizard, advanced active 1 is awful, and advanced active 4 is like OP as hell. We don't know. You know, like,
yeah.
we don't know what those are yet.
Well, and that was an interesting conversation that I picked up on in chat the other day. Was people were talking about like what is more important, active or passive traits? Because like the passive ones aren't the recessives; they're like passive abilities for those heroes. So it's like, what's more important? Just because it says passive doesn't mean that it's, you know, less value. So there's actually 4 traits that could be, you know, advanced and have some type of benefit to them, and which one should we consider? So we don't even know what they do, but then also we don't know, like, even within the categories, like if they're important or not.
And then I still think there's the connection to when we figure out what the skill points we start attributing to these heroes, and then connecting the skill points to the stats and then being able to craft certain things that can then maybe even complement the skill points and the stats. All of that kind of to be determined detailed information for the combat is a little bit of what I'm waiting for, and so I'm taking a little bit more of the kind of passive, lazier, speculative approach on all that stuff for the time being, just because I think so much is up in the air.
I think in one of the previous AMAs they were talking about pets and how pets would potentially add to your stats just like equipment and other things would. So like somebody asked a question about pets and they said, you know, probably. And I think in this AMA, they talk about pets as well. Yeah, right where Beeks is at. So good transition here. But they also kind of subsequently confirmed that, you know, gear and stuff like that would add to your stats as well.
Yeah, so let's get into the pets. On the old or most current roadmap, that seemed to be up next, so definitely excited to see what if the reworked roadmap will still have that up to be the next thing for Sarandale. So the question was, do we have any more info about the mechanics the pets will support and how they will support the heroes? Are the bonuses related to professions, combat, both? Hubert says, hopefully Barris doesn't get on me for saying too much. We are looking at them to have the potential to provide benefit for both combat and professions, as well as some features we are planning to add to the game. The goal is to make them dynamic. Two pets will very often not be the same. They might look similar, but the benefits they provide will be different, and they will also be tied to a rarity system. Follow-up question was, do we know if they will be one-to-one with heroes or work for a group? Hubert says mostly one-to-one with a hero, but some bonuses might impact a full group. Another question about pets saying, will there be a feature like meditation circle to level them up? Hubert says, we are looking at a unique location. You'll have to go for hatching pets. And then about rarities and summoning, they say current iteration for pets is that we're looking at them, or at looking for the pets to come from eggs and not a breeding system, which I was happy to hear. Kind of keeps the rarity of them, since it's all about, being able to get them from the questing and whatnot. So you can hatch a rare egg or a not so rare egg coming soon. And to see what that does for the profession questing and what kind of bonuses that might add, also exciting. Again, another one of these things, if we look at it from just kind of the DeFi side of things, of it's really just kind of accelerating more of these unlocking mechanisms, right, to a deflationary token. So there's always kind of a double-edged sword side to the benefits of getting more, means that it's also, of course, increasing the supply of everything. So unless the game's kind of growing at a kind of a pace that matches that supply increase in the circulation, it's kind of why we see the price of Jewel dip right now when there's a little bit of stagnation in the market or a lack in growth, or it's just not kind of matching the amount that's being unlocked. This was a question, it's about custodian. When you list your hero up in the tavern, the tavern quote unquote owns the hero so that the smart contract can facilitate that sale or that transaction. So the question was about being able to quest, which a lot of people ask about, while the hero is listed. So Frisky was just saying that there is conceptually a way to do it, but the way they'd have to kind of architect that smart contract was that if it's listed and you're questing, if the hero was bought while it was in the quest, the person that bought it would then get the questing rewards if it happened to be during the actual questing time, which could very much be likely for all the kind of 4-hour staking and 4-hour quest and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. Buy a hero and might get you an egg. And then kind of that was really all I had as like the notes for the AMA. And then the last thing I just had to say, or I thought was cool, was just Frisky's closing remarks. So the last recap we did, we talked about the DFK chain, and we talked about Jewel being the gas token for Crystalvale, and very bullish on that. That's like such an incredible mechanic to implement against the deflationary token, which is why I'm so excited about it. But I was kind of saying I wasn't sure how to comprehend how bullish that is, and my bullishness just went up 10 times after Frisky said what he said here. So I will just read it. He goes, we have an amazing community. We get all these amazing ideas and suggestions. It makes the project higher quality, and it makes the community higher quality. Amazing to wake up every day and work on this project. This project is groundbreaking, and so many exciting things are planned. Super stoked about DFK Chain. Jewel for gas blows my mind. As soon as he said that, I was like, yes. It also blows my mind. Super excited about pets and LAN tournaments and few things we haven't announced yet that will be little things in between. Just wanted to say, like tomorrow's announcement, just wanted to say thanks to everyone for closing or coming to the AMA. Wednesday I have the announcement, and we will see you all in Spain. And that is where the Avalanche Summit is going down a week from today or tomorrow or something like that. So that's all I got for tonight's recap. But I just bullish about pets, bullish about not being able to breed pets, keeping the rarity of pets, and I'm bullish about Jewel for Gas and crafting. Those are my major takeaways for yesterday's recap. But like I said, it was pretty light. We're still waiting on just like a lot of the finalized details, but overall bullish, just a little update, weekly update. Nothing to complain about. So if anyone else doesn't have anything to say, I'll hang out for a bit, play some music, and let everyone exit with a vibe. And we'll be back next week.